Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Lawdit Solicitors podcast. My name is Ellis. I am a solicitor at Lawdit, specialising in IP, and today I'm joined by Abhi, our IP trainee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
So today, me and Abhi were having a chat in the office just about IP in general because we're that interesting people, and we were brought onto the subject of Aldi and Lidl. So this is something that has been quite well versed in the media of late. There's been a few cases that have picked up people's interest, and we were having a chat about how Aldi and Lidl seem to get involved in these situations relating to trademark infringement or copyright infringement, and how they are building their reputation in the industry that they're in, but also, like I say, finding themselves in these loopholes. So just as a quick recap, Aldi and Lidl are more budget and cost-effective supermarkets. They're mainly known for selling their sort of own brand products at a lower price point for people to go in and get their favourites, but without having to sort of pay that premium for a brand. As they've developed, a lot of Aldi and Lidl's products are trying to sort of elevate themselves from your bog standard own brand products that have all got the same labelling, all got the same packaging and sort of look a bit boring. They are taking inspiration, is probably the best way to put it, from famous brands, whether that's in relation to sort of names or colourings or packagings, to elevate those products. And that is potentially where they're getting into hot water. So we have examples for both Aldi and Lidl, but Abhi. But start off where you want to. But what have they been up to?
Cool, thank you, Alice. So it's really interesting what Aldi and Lidl have been doing. So what they do is they allow the main brands that you guys all know of to spend all their time and energy and resources perfecting their brand and their reputation, and get that distinctive mark which can be registered. And what they do is they take that, and like Alice said, they take inspiration and do a few tweaks and make it their own brand, which is also allowed to be registered. So this allows Aldi and Lidl to avoid most of the cost of and effort in terms of actually making their own brand and mark, but still receive the recognised shoppers that the main brands would also get as well. So they can do their lower prices because they save costs through methods like this. And despite the clear similarities that Aldi and Lidl have to the main brands, like Ellis said, they're rarely ever challenged because they know to what extent the law is prepared to go to protect certain brands and make sure they can always find a loophole. In terms of examples, one that you guys all know recently is Aldi's one with M&S about Cuba the caterpillar and Colin the caterpillar.
The cake wars.
Yes, the cake wars. Thank you, Alice. So despite the claims being made by M&S of trademark infringement, and even it went to the High Court, you can still see Cuba the caterpillar in Aldi stores to this day. So that shows, again, Aldi was able to get away with it. So all they have to do is go on Twitter and have a few laughs about it, and that's all they have to do. So one for Lidl is Hendrick's Gin. So Lidl actually lost this one because Hendrick's Gin were able to prove that Lidl's own brand Hampstead Gin was too similar, and essentially Lidl was riding on the coattails of Hendrick's Gin and taking advantage of their reputation. So Hendrick's were able to obtain an injunction to essentially stop Hampstead Gin being sold in Lidl stores. And again, Lidl tried to claim that they weren't riding on the coattails and using Hendrick's reputation because they were different, they were slightly different, and consumers would know that when they're going to Lidl, they would be getting discounted products and not the actual real Hendrick's Gin. So they always have that mindset that they're not expecting Hendrick's to be in Lidl, but this wasn't sufficient in the case, as it was said that there was clear intention to benefit from Lidl of Hendrick's reputation. So in terms of how Lidl actually get away with it, what they essentially do is, as I said before, they get certain packaging similarities, but in most situations the actual product name is significantly different to the actual main brand name, which wouldn't cause confusion around consumers. And as I said, when you're going to Lidl and Aldi, you're not expecting the main brand products to be there. You know you're going into the store to get discount products.
Yeah, so it all really comes down to confusion. When a customer walks into a shop, are they going to expect to be buying Hendrick's gin in Lidl's? When they look at two products, do they think that they're connected in some way? It all comes down to confusion on the part of the public. Like you say, most of the time the names and the packaging is sufficiently different to draw that line in terms of, okay, they are different products, they just happen to be of a similar nature, or they look quite similar but the name is very different. The setting in which they're being purchased, like I say, is very different. So that's how a lot of examples of situations where you may walk into Aldi and think, wow, that looks very similar to X, Y, and Z brand. That's how they sort of skirt round the fact of being in court every 5 minutes. The Hendrick's gin one is very interesting. I think, like you say, that example, the name is quite similar, the packaging was very similar, and potentially a product like gin, which has to be made in a certain way, is always going to be of a certain level of quality, whereas a cake is a cake. It can be very different from a very cheap cake to a very expensive cake. So something like that, potentially a consumer is going to think that gin is always going to be of a certain level, so potentially there's a higher level of confusion there. But it is very, very interesting and something that we always have a chat about in the office when these things come up. And it's actually one of those questions that I get asked quite often is, how do Aldi and Lidl get away with it? And like Abby said, in some circumstances they do, but in some circumstances they don't. And it's that fine line between, would consumers being confused into thinking they are getting certain brands in more budget-friendly supermarkets or not? So, Abby, thank you so much for your insight on that.
No worries.
And if you've got any other questions in terms of protecting your brand, protecting your intellectual property, or any disputes that may come up, please do get in touch with the team. You can find all of our details on our website, www.lawdit.co.uk, and we'll be back in your ears soon. Thank you.